at some point you will need to service the flow switch. It's very simple, as all you have to do is remove what's called the bonnet, and when you remove the bonnet, it also will give you access to the shuttle itself. To remove the bonnet, you're going to push out each of these two stainless steel keys, and you do that with a screwdriver, and you simply put the edge of a flat tip screwdriver into the channel and you push it, and then into the other side. And as you can see, they'll pull out very easily once you've pushed them forward. Now don't do like I did, and if you have this installed out in the deep dark woods with leaves all around, and use a screwdriver and push it out, and the little stainless steel key goes sailing off into the leaves. Trust me, you will never find it. So as you're doing this, if you are doing this out in the woods, then by all means put your finger on the opposite side so that that stainless steel key does not get away from you. Very simple. Then you'll also notice that in the bonnet there's a slot to place a screwdriver. So you just kind of wiggle that up just a little bit, and you can kind of move around and get the bonnet started, and then you just simply pull it off. As you can see, there's an O-ring. That's what seals it. And if you always want to use silicone grease on this O-ring, never any kind of petroleum-based grease. Inside your flow switch housing, sometimes there will be a slimy material, or there will be precipitated iron. There may be some algae in there. So you can literally clean that out with your finger, or you can take a rag and just simply put it in there and run it around. Very easy to do. Your bonnet and your shuttle. Sometimes this red shuttle will get stuck, usually at the top of the shaft. The reason it gets stuck up there is generally because some kind of foreign material is inside the flow switch housing. So what you want to do is check the shaft for any kind of deposit. Sometimes in areas with very heavy or very hard water, you'll have a calcium deposit on this shaft, and that will obviously eventually stop this shuttle from moving freely. If you have calcium deposits or iron deposits on this shuttle, the shaft of the bonnet, then you will generally need to clean that with some type of acidic cleaner, such as Iron Out. You can use a diluted form of hydrochloric acid or muriatic acid, but only use that if you are able to protect your eyes and your hands and so forth, because that's a very dangerous chemical. The other thing about the shuttle is that you can see that it has two magnets at the top. These magnets are what activate the reed switch inside the flow switch. Also, magnets are going to attract iron filings. So in some wells, those iron filings come up and they float around in the water and they stick inside the shuttle, in which case it will cause it to not be able to move freely. So what you do is you take this shuttle and you hold it up to the light and you look down the barrel, if you will, very carefully. And in most cases, if it's caused by those iron filings, and sometimes they're very tiny, you're going to be able to see them because you can look right down the shaft or right down the inside of this shuttle, and you'll be able to see those tiny iron filings. You can take a Q-tip, a dental pick, whatever you have in your toolbox, and you can push those things out. Generally, you don't have iron filings if you have installed the sensor on the downstream side of the retention tank, because obviously those filings are going to be heavier than water, they're going to settle out, and that saves you from having that particular problem. So again, you might have slime, you might have a calcium buildup in here. You can clean both the shaft of the bonnet and the shuttle itself by dropping them into an acidic solution. Again, what I recommend is iron out. There's no need to scrape anything. You don't want to use sandpaper on this, and you definitely do not want to put any lubrication on here. If you stop and think about that, I've seen that before. People put some kind of silicone grease on here, and obviously what happens is every particle that comes down through the water of any type just simply sticks to it, and then it gums the whole thing up. So once you get this clean, just takes a couple of seconds. You put the shuttle back onto the shaft, and you'll be able to hear the clicking of the relay closing. Then put a little bit of silicone grease around the edge of the O-ring. Oh, very, very important. Make sure that this fat part is at the bottom of your housing. I've had people send these things back, and turns out the shuttle was upside down, which it'll still work, but it takes about 5 times the amount of water for it to push it up there. So, use your common sense, and this is the big flat part. That's the part that you want the water to be pushing up against. And obviously the magnets are at the top. Okay? So we're going to put just a little bit of silicone grease onto this O-ring. It just helps it move more easily. We're going to put the shuttle on with the fat part at the bottom, the magnets at the top, and just simply slide it back into the housing. I know, it's a lot easier to do at this table than it is out in the field. I understand. Now, if you've done this correctly, then everything is seated in there, and there's plenty of room for these keys to go in. So boom, they slide right in just with your fingertips. You don't need to force it in there at all. And if they don't go in like that, then what you need to do is reseat that bonnet, because these keys just simply slide right in. Now, they don't go, as you can see, all the way in with your fingers. So what I do is use the edge of a flat tip screwdriver and just pop them in there and seat them in place, and that way they're just exactly where they need to be, and your maintenance on the flow switch housing and the shuttle complete.